I know you, I can feel you with the green of soul. It's more than empty dreams and promises. It's not infecting me no more. When all I say to you is getting gone, you won't be feeling me no more. I know you, I can feel you with the green of souls. When you're not looking at me, I feel so slow. When all those dreams of all our memories, there's not being alone at one. And thoughts of you just bring me down inside. I sing it with the green of souls. I know you, I can feel you with the green of souls. When you're not looking at me, I feel so slow. What? Get your hands up! It's more than empty dreams and promises.
All right, back at it one more time. All right, subscribe to that channel. What's going down, Ray? Hit that bell notification, like the video for the content. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching the listening room today. I'm your host. My name is Eddie Booze, and today I have back on the program somebody I have missed for quite a while, somebody I'm super stoked to have back on, a very insightful young man, a world traveler who I'm excited to call my friend. I'm stoked to have back on the show today, Mr. Kyle Romero from the Mind Tasting Podcast. How you doing, brother?
Hello, everyone.
Good to
I'm doing well, doing very well. Excited to be back as well, and yeah, it's a beautiful day out, so I'm just grateful.
So where are you right now, Mr. World Traveler?
I'm currently in Park City, Utah.
Okay, back in Park City. Okay.
Yeah. This is been a bit of a home base for me because my buddy has a little spot here. So, I was in New Mexico for a little bit, spent some time in Santa Fe, which was really cool. But yeah, back in Park City for maybe another week or so, and then I think I'll be heading back to California in a few weeks. So
Very cool. You gonna be getting ready to start working when you come back?
yeah, well, I mean, I'm currently working a remote job right now.
Sure.
So actually, according to my company and our office, we're not going to be back in the office, and it's going to stay remote just because, everything going on. And so, yeah, I don't quite know when that's going to happen, or, I think we all are kind of just figuring it out as we go and just see how the world is responding to everything. And so I'm just trying to ride the wave, man.
Yeah, I totally feel you on that one, man. And that's totally good. You've been kind of jumping around, kind of just enjoying yourself. But at the same time, you've been working. You've been working remotely every day, Monday through Friday. Which is nice to make a little bit of money. And are you still in training with this company, and you're going to be starting the actual job soon, or are you doing the full job now?
Actually, we just our last week of training is this week. And so we're kind of in this transition of going into what we're going to be doing for real. And so, yeah, it's been a long training process, but I'm starting to actually do the work. So it's been a cool transition.
Love it, brother. Love it, brother. Well, look, man, I always like to start my show off like I like to start my day off with a little bit of gratitude. So today will be no different. So today, why don't you go ahead and tell me something you're grateful for today? Why don't we start off with your gratitude today?
All right, yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure this is a common one, and we're all grateful for this, but it's just really top of mind right now. Is friendship, you know, and I think what I guess I'll try to be a little bit more specific with friendship is that those friendships that you have that kind of got your back when maybe you're in a tough spot or you're kind of in need of something. You know, like I said, currently for me right now, I'm staying at a buddy's place. You've definitely hooked me up in the past. I stayed with you for a little bit, and just having those friends that like will provide for you a little bit and reach out with that helping hand when you need it. I'm just so grateful for that always. Forever grateful for you, for what you've done for me in the past and still do, you know, inviting me on the show. And so I'm grateful for friendship, but specifically those like really helpful friends that got you when you need it. And so, yeah, man, just grateful.
I feel you on that, brother. I feel you on that. I like that. You know, Ray says the side by side looks clean, which is nice to hear. I'm grateful for you, Mom. I appreciate that, and I love you. And Kyle, that's a really good one too. You know, I mean, because I mean, look, you can look on social media and see that you have any number of friends. You can say how many friends you may have. Ray, I like that one too. Thankful for perspective. You can say how many. You can just see. I have thousands of friends or hundreds of friends on social media. But how many of those people are really there for you when you need them? Like you said, how many of those people are really. Can you say really got your back when you just need someone to talk to? Or when you just need some like maybe Ray said some perspective, or maybe just need a place to stay, or any one of just any thousand things that you could possibly need. And that's another thing too, is like that goes hand in hand with, like, I think a lot of people out there have a lot of pride, and it's hard to ask for help with people. And I find that when people do find it in themselves to ask for the help, those people that do step up and help in those times, especially when you're so vulnerable that you really do have to ask, I feel that is a super super strong and commendable thing, and connection. It's just a connection. It's just one of those things. Like it's not like something that's someone or something that's trying to be virtuous to be virtuous. They're just because it's the right thing to do. Type thing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel you on that, and I'm grateful for that too, man. Like in a huge way, Yeah, man, I absolutely love that gratitude, dude. And I absolutely love that, dude. I'm glad that people are throwing their gratitudes out today. That's cool, man. For me today, I'm really grateful for my sobriety. I got sober 11 years ago, and and I from alcohol. I was an alcoholic. I'm still, I don't know what that's gonna look like in the future. I'd like to think that I have a little bit more control over myself now than I did, a decade ago. Over a decade ago. But I mean, I'm thankful for as far as I've been able to come. With my sobriety, I tell you what, this wouldn't have been happening if I wasn't sober.
Yep.
Oh, dude,
I hear you.
If I was drinking, if I had any, see, that's the thing, is like alcohol is a time consumer, not.
It's a distraction.
It's a time consumer. It's got some crazy, like, things that it does to your life, like. And a lot of people I know, they drink every day. I used to drink every day. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just that I choose not to drink anymore, and it's allowed me to be so much more productive. I know a lot of people ask, like, well, how do you do, like, this show and, like, all the music you do and play all these shows and, like, do this and that and, like, record other people and do movies. And I'm just like, it's probably because I don't drink anymore. It's probably because I have the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like.
And the thing that really started killing me with drinking, and because I'm actually like I'm almost 2 years sober, me personally.
Nice.
But what I realized for me is like not only is it take up time, as you mentioned, when you're drinking, but it's like, the hangover afterwards. Now the whole next day I'm not productive because like my body is in recovery mode because like I literally put something that is not really like healthy for me inside my body. And so for me, that's actually what really caused it. Like I didn't necessarily do terrible stuff when I was drunk, but I just noticed like my body isn't really happy with me after this. And so maybe I should not be doing
Totally,
it.
dude.
But yeah, I agree with you, man. It's not a problem for everyone. So if it's not a problem for you, you don't need to be sober. But like, yo, if it is a problem for you, start to look at that behavior, because yeah, it can be a problem for a
Yeah.
lot of people. So just look
You're
at
absolutely
it,
you're absolutely
Just look at
right.
it.
Ray says here, whatever you do, you have to not lose yourself. You have to you have to control. You have to have some control. And I think that just goes hand in hand
Yeah.
with what you're saying. I mean, if it's a problem, you got to get it under control. And if that means
Yeah.
just cutting it out of your life for a while. While you focus on some other things, while you focus on some other growth areas in your life, and just try and do some other things with yourself. That's what it means. But
Yeah.
but it is circumstantial, it is situational, and it is to each their own. But for me, I found personally that I was very similar in the same fact that it wasn't like I was someone. I wasn't an angry drunk. I wasn't a mean drunk, but. And for me, it wasn't necessarily the way I felt, because I drank every day, and I drank a lot every day. So my homeostasis, my physical homeostasis was way different than yours was. My physical homeostasis was running on 6 beers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my normal, you know what I mean? Like, that was my baseline,
Yeah, your body had gotten
I was
used
like,
to it,
I feel like I was like Jim Leahy in like season 12 of Trailer Park Boys, where he was like just riding the line at like .8 all the time. I felt like that was my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For like, a long time. But I also realized that like for me, it wasn't necessarily the physical stuff, although that definitely was part of it. I feel like for me, my reality was a bad reality. Like, I woke up every day with this weird feeling like, okay, so what bad decision did I make last night because I was drinking? What, who do I have to apologize for spilling a beer on, or doing, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to, did I say something stupid? It's like, and that became my first thought every morning towards the end of my alcoholism. You know what I mean? And I didn't like feeling that way. The reality that I had created for myself was just garbage, dude. It was garbage.
And it sounds like it started becoming a source of like regret,
every day.
Like, it was causing you to do things you regret. So again, for people that don't do things that they regret when they're drunk, okay, it's not a problem for you. But like, if you're starting to notice like, oh shit, when I get drunk, I do things that I regret, then maybe that's something to, like, consider and look at for yourself. So
and I just wasn't, I wasn't being responsible for, to the people around me and myself, and I finally got sober, and I felt a lot better about myself over time. It wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't like the day I got sober, like I felt better the next day. Like, bro, I still woke up every day for 3 months feeling like I still had to apologize, like wondering who I had to apologize to that day. Like that didn't go away right away. You know what I mean? Like my reality slowly but surely got better. People slowly and surely started to see that I was, in this for the long haul,
Yeah. And you're really touching on a good point, man. I think that's true for any changes that we can make in our lives, any behavioral changes, any lifestyle changes. It takes time. And I think the nature of what we are expecting in our lives, and at least for me, is I want things to happen fast. I want to be like, oh, okay, I made a decision. I guess I'm going to be different
That's that human
tomorrow,
nature,
or
instant gratitude thing.
Yeah, instant like change, and instantly my life is going to change. And it's like, yo, like, that's one of my biggest learning lessons lately, actually, is I've had to remind myself, hey, okay, slow down. Just because you've made this decision to maybe, change your this or that about yourself, or pursue this new thing, it's not going to be like, you're not going to build this craft overnight. You're not going to build this show overnight. You're not going to make this awesome creation overnight. Like, take your time. It's okay. That's one of the things actually that I've been doing a lot of hiking lately on this
Nice.
road trip, really getting into nature. And what you learn in nature is the real pace of life, man. You understand, oh, look, it takes months, years for this tree to grow into this tree or these plants. Like there's seasons, there's ups and downs. You got to like ride it, like it's not going to happen
Exactly.
like overnight like what we think. So slow it down, keep your mind like chill out. It's okay. And things will develop slowly as you like let it happen.
Yes, sir. Very, very, very astute observation. That's absolutely right. It doesn't just happen overnight, and like we were saying before, like going back to how I felt after I got sober. It took a while. It's funny because if you don't have patience with it, and if you don't and have faith in the process, if you don't like start to really just surrender to the process of healing over time, I find what happens is you can get burnt out on trying to heal. You can actually feel like, well, I'm beating my head against the wall and this is not helping. And you know what I mean? Like if you're gauging it on a day by day basis of, I can't see the results. I can't see the results. I can't see the results.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. What you said, they're gauging, and it's almost like your judging and your analysis has to be long-term view. In your actions, you're disciplined, and every day I'm going to like work on my craft. Every day I'm going to focus on not drinking. But your mindset and your overall, when I'm analyzing my situation, trying to think more long-term is like, it's for your sanity, so that you don't go crazy with like, judging yourself every single day. It's like you
have
go
to be able to, on some level, separate the micro and the macro. And in doing that too, like that's one of those things. Like I come back to this all the time on the show about like recognizing and celebrating those small wins on the way to those giant on the way to those big goals. So it's like, oh my God, I made it through today without a drink. Like I'm gonna have a piece of chocolate cake for dinner or whatever it is that you want to do because you're an adult. But like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, acknowledge that you're doing well. Give yourself a
celebrate the
yes, man. Acknowledge what you're doing well on the way to the biggest, to the bigger goal. And give yourself a little win every now and then, and acknowledge that. That's not easy to do, dude. People will get burnt out on that. But here's the thing. If you're able to step back from that and just do the work for a number of weeks, maybe a month, or even a number of months, for an extended period of time, without trying to gauge, without just without focusing on where you are and just putting your nose down and just work, and then and then when you pick up and when you pick your head up and you look, you won't even recognize where you are to where you were.
Yeah.
Whereas if you gauge it every day, you're not going to see any change. But if you even look back in 2 weeks, if you try not to do the whole macro gauging, judgment of yourself, if you choose to pull away from the self judgment for a few weeks and say, look, I'm just going to work on myself, and I'm going to acknowledge that I'm working on myself. And that's as far as you need to take it. Literally, just say, you know what, I'm working on myself, and that's all I'm acknowledging right now. I'm acknowledging the fact that I'm every day doing these things and keeping the little promises to myself to keep me more fulfilled. Do you see what I'm saying? It means nothing to, and it's not for anyone else. It's not because of anything other than you need to focus on the day-to-day instead of seeing the macro on a day-to-day. You're trying to go, oh my God, like I need this result tomorrow. Like you're not going to get it.
And it's the action. It's looking at the action as opposed to the result. All I'm paying attention to is I worked on my craft. I did a little drawing today. I didn't drink today. That action. The result of wanting everything to change, don't pay attention to that in the micro, because that is going to happen over time. If you just focus on whatever that action is, this is the action that I'm taking. I think that's a good focus point for micro
and that's all you have to acknowledge, and that's all you have to focus on is that this is the action that I'm taking.
That's a win. if you take that action or stop that action or whatever it is, if you do that, that's a win. And surrender the result and like look at the result in a few weeks, in a few months, in a few years.
Exactly.
Like give yourself time, patience.
Yeah,
man.
and you're not doing, you're not acting in. It's exactly what we're saying. Is what you're doing is you're acting in a more of a in the interest of a process based result of obtaining a process based result where you're stoked on the process, where you get involved with the process, and whereas we're in opposition to an outcome based process. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like we're only focused on the final outcome, and that's the only thing that's going to bring us the pleasure, and that's the only thing we're stoked about is working towards that final outcome. No. It's redirecting our energy and our focus and our attention into being okay, into really appreciating and having an emotional relationship with the actual process. Because I'll tell you what, when I started working out, and this goes right hand in hand with what Ray just said. Ray said it's like people trying to lose weight and stepping on a scale every day. It's exactly right. You're not going to see the difference, and it's just like for me, the opposite. Like you can see, I'm not a very big guy, but I was lifting weights a couple of years ago, and I was working out with a friend of mine who's a personal trainer, and I didn't focus on the day-to-day results of my process of my progress. I didn't look for some outcome that was in the future. What I did was I just went in every day and I lifted weights. And you know what I do? You know what happened? I got started to really be stoked on myself for being able to wake up at 5:30 every morning. And I'm not a morning person, like by any means. But I was excited that I was being able to step out of my comfort zone, push myself past a physical comfort limit, get up, get dressed, and every day go to the gym and work out at 6 o'clock in the morning hard. Real hard. I mean, sometimes it was hard to drive myself home because I couldn't even steer my car. I'd worked my arms out so hard, you know what I mean? Or my legs. I felt like I was gonna I felt like I wasn't driving my car quite the best of my abilities because I couldn't put the brakes and the gases, because I had done hard leg day, and it feels good after a while to do the thing before you obtain the thing. You know what I'm saying? Or do the thing that leads to the, that leads to you obtaining, said goal or whatever it is. So
I think this really, I love what you're saying, man, because it actually touches on the topic that we were kind of going to discuss today, which is, I think what happens is when you're focused on the result, it's actually because you care about other people's opinions and what other people are seeing the results. The other people are seeing when you have bulked up or when you have lost weight. They see the result. They don't see you at the gym. They don't see you working on your craft. And so when you're doing it for other people, that's when you're paying attention to the result. If you're doing it for yourself,
very smart.
And you're actually when you really are just doing it for yourself, that's when you care more about the process. That's when you're focused on the process.
And what you're saying too is here's what I heard was here's the funny thing of what you said. Here's the funny thing about perception, about what you just said. What you just said was if you're doing it for somebody else, then you're always going to be looking at the progress on that type of level. But when you're doing it for yourself, you're able to, or you're going to be more apt to look at the process. The process and enjoy the process. You know what I'm saying? Now it's easier to actually do that, to enjoy the process after you've started doing it. You know what I'm saying? You have to engage in it first before you can actually start to enjoy it. You know what I mean?
You actually have to do the thing.
To be honest with you, a lot of times those processes don't feel like the thing you want to do necessarily. You know what I mean? But it's like, well, I have to. And then once you start doing those things, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I mean, getting something that's really worth having is very rarely easy. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, a lot of the steps and the processes that go with losing weight, like Ray said, or building muscle, like I said, or, building a great career or doing something for yourself along those lines, it's never easy. and it comes with sacrifice. It comes with
Yes.
sacrifice, discipline,
work,
absolutely,
discipline.
dude, and all those things. And it comes with putting aside that. It comes with the discipline of putting aside that instant gratitude that we were talking about earlier. That
Yeah.
need to have it now, type thing. So that's where we come back to falling in love with the process, being able to do things based on a process based reward based for ourselves, where we're just enjoying the process more than just seeking the outcome, because we will guarantee you will burn out sooner or later on that. That can't sustain itself. It just won't. It's impossible.
And I think this also points to choosing the thing that you want to focus on.
Huge.
It's like, again, choose something that is for you.
Big time.
So that you'll actually enjoy the process, versus if you're looking at outside sources, if you're looking at other people's opinions, oh, what do you think I should do? That's not going to be sustainable, because it's not a process that you actually enjoy. You're only doing it for other people. You're only looking at the result. You're going to get burned out. It all is this like circle of like, focusing internally, focusing on yourself. That is what will help you decide, oh, this is actually a process that I like. Oh, this is something that I actually like to do, as opposed to this is what I think other people want me to do, or what I think is acceptable, or what other people want, or just like kind of, focusing on something that's external to you.
And that actually goes into a very specific instance that you had when you were out at dinner with your coworkers, and you thought, I don't want to rock the boat or anything, so I'm just going to eat this pizza, and it ended up having something on it that you were allergic to, and you had an allergic reaction, ended up having to go to the hospital, and that was because in your mind, you actually had the thought process of, oh, I need to make a decision based on what other people might think or how other people might feel.
Yeah, I want to
instead of you just saying, just being, you're just, you know what I mean, just doing what was best for you, and just understanding that this is my process. You know what I mean? And you know what? If anybody who doesn't, who's not down with that, can kick rocks. You know what I mean? But that actually does go hand in hand. What we're talking about is like knowing what you want, and like knowing what you're going after, knowing what you're passionate about, and not doing it for somebody else, and doing that thing for you, that kind of goes, that slightly goes into what my what our topic was, is going to be for today, which we'll go into now. I was thinking about this, what I was talking to Kyle about earlier is I was saying, how best do we maintain our individual mentality and also the self-confidence to display such individual mentality in a situation where groupthink may start to take hold. And my initial thought here was that if you have based values, if you know your values, if you have inherent values within yourself where where you mentally and emotionally stand on things, I feel like it's a lot easier for you to be to display that emotional and mental individuality when you're when you may be in a situation like you were in with these people where you thought they may judge you for not eating the pizza. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like when we're really in touch, I feel like for me, when we're really in touch with our strongest values, I feel like that's when we're able to really crack down on ourselves and make those hard decisions for ourselves and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this way, and I'm still going to be me, even in the face of this kind of situation where I may want to tiptoe around everyone else because everyone else is saying this thing or wants to feel this way or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like, how best do you feel? We can stay kind of in our individual mentalities and be confident with our in ourselves in those situations. And and those of you
Well,
out there
I
as
think-
well, and I want you to I want you to answer that question too if you have anything for me, because this is something I've been thinking about lately. Like, it's something that it's there's a lot of what seems to be like tribalism that goes on in society, and it's I've always tried my best to have some individuality and have some individualism and have and just think for myself. And I know that's hard to do, especially when you start to just get around people in general. I mean, in general, when you start to get around certain people or or groups. But how do you find it best to do that?
Well, I think what you touched on early is actually a really good first step, which is actually just establishing what your values and what you believe and what you like, what's important to you, what your belief system is, what your values are. Actually establishing that is a big
It's huge,
first
because
step.
if you don't have it, you can be swayed any possible direction by any word anybody says.
Exactly. So that's the first thing, is like literally writing it down, literally sitting down, sit with yourself. Don't consume a bunch of media for a little bit. Maybe go on a little bit of a retreat on your own. Turn off your phone for a whole day, a whole weekend, a whole week.
Smart.
Be with yourself. Sit with yourself for a little bit. Write them down. Journal. Do some meditation. Like something where you're getting in touch with yourself, I think is a good first step to just establish where you're at. And then and again, that's huge. That's huge. I don't want to downplay that. That's like a really big thing, really big first step to even do. I'm currently doing that and trying to figure that out for myself. So establish what you're about, who you are, what your values are, what your belief system is. And then realizing, I think what happens, as you mentioned, in our society, there is a tribalism, there is a tendency. I think as human beings, we are social creatures, and so we have a tendency to want to fit in. We have a tendency to want to be accepted, to be loved, to have support, to have people that agree with you. And so to be mindful of that tendency. And then I think actually to fulfill that need that we have, I think one thing that's super important that I've been realizing is I thought initially, okay, I'm going to establish who I am, and then I'm not going to need anyone else. Like, F what everyone thinks. I'm just going to like be strong in myself and hold myself accountable, and I don't need anyone. And I agree that there's a lot of strength in having that individuality and to being self-reliant and to knowing who you are and to being very independent. That's all great. However, I think that we are social creatures, and we do need a support system. And so having a few people in your life, like you are for me, Eddie, who has your back, that is going to be in your community, that even if you might disagree here or there, is going to love you and support you and is with you. You know what I mean? Like having that kind of a little bit of a foundation, even if it's just one or two people, just having a little bit of a support system will give you the strength to all of a sudden go out into the world and display those little, maybe a rebellious viewpoint or something that's a little bit different from other people. And you're okay being maybe ostracized or seen as different or taking on a little bit of criticism, because you know that you have those people that have your back. You know that you have yourself. You're established in your view, in your value system.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So I think
that goes all the way back to your gratitude from the very first thing we talked about here.
Yeah.
And that's like super, dude, like that's huge. No, that's really, really wonderful. And I'm going to be honest with you, Kyle. Growing up, for me, like when I was growing up, I didn't have, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know if here's, I don't know why, but it feels shameful. I feel like weirdly shameful to say this, but like I didn't have a lot of friends when I was a kid. I mean, I was kind of like, I don't know.
You're
kind
a
of a
loner
weird
kid?
I guess. I wasn't a loner. Like I mean, trust me, I would have preferred to have, to have had more friends, but I just seemed to not, it was, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, and then, so, growing up, I didn't necessarily have that type of system. And as I got older, I did. But a lot of that still kind of feels like family, and there's a few very close friends. I have a handful of like really close friends that I can talk to, and a lot of my close friends, and I actually value this. Actually, a lot of my close friends and I don't agree on everything. In fact, we have very differing views. You and I have differing views on quite a few things, but we get along wonderfully and are able to talk about those things so openly with each other. And I cannot even tell you how much I value that and how much I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. And being able to have even 2 or 3 people that you can have, that you can talk to, about things, or be or about your inherent values, and really, Kyle, these are the important things in life. I mean, you can talk to anybody about movies, but who are you going to talk to about the things that you're passionate about the things that you believe in, and the things that that are really important to you, and you choose those people. And I feel that is huge in building that support system, in building that
network.
Dude, it's so huge. And but it's not only building the network and the foundation, it's building that like inner thing, and it's helping build that inner self-confidence in you, because like you said, it's helping you as an individual to keep your individual mentality. And I like that. I like that you're actually utilizing the societal aspect of this.
And the relational. It's like the relationship that you have with someone. If it's the right relationship, it actually can strengthen you in your uniqueness and your individuality, because I know that I have a relationship with someone who appreciates my individuality and allows me and holds space for me to just be myself, so that I have the strength now to go do that, even in an environment where there's groupthink going on, where you might be there's some criticism, there's a lot of differences, but I know I have this relationship, and so I can stand firm in my own self-confidence. It's almost like using someone else as a mirror, like, again, of course it's best to be held strong in your own, but like, it's almost like using a relationship to strengthen your own self-confidence and your own self-worth.
Sure. I like that. Ray says iron sharpens iron. And that's very good. And I like that too, but because it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to put yourself in an echo chamber or a bubble of people saying the same thing. What it means is you need to keep yourself surrounded by supportive people, even if you have different ideas. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I think, for me, really important. For some people, I think it's important for them to be surrounded by the same ideas. Like for me, I like being challenged. I like when I can talk to other people and have different ideas, and we can have that kind of challenging debate. Discussion.
It's almost it's a friendly debate where it's okay that we disagree, because I know at the root, I think it's also it's also getting to, Eddie, is that we know that we are not our ideas, and we're not our thoughts.
Dude,
right?
It's so well said. We are not our ideas. We are not our thoughts. We are just people who have love in our hearts for each other.
Beliefs, and you have opinions, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, you're another human being. So we can transcend the idea that we have a disagreement, and I believe that this is the right thing to do versus you believe that thing. It's okay to disagree. You know what I mean? And some people are so attached to their belief system that anytime someone disagrees with them, okay, you're an enemy now. And it's like, whoa, dude, why can't we just have a little bit of a friendly discussion that has some disagreements, has some arguments, and that doesn't mean that we're enemies.
Let's go to Korean barbecue. Let's talk it out. Let's have some meat, and let's, you know what I'm saying?
There we
You know
go.
what I mean? Like just that's exactly right, dude. I absolutely love that, and I think, and I feel I find a lot of value in that for myself in my own life, and I invite you guys to consider out there, in YouTube land out there, to consider doing the same. Consider having your friends over who don't necessarily think in the same way or disagree with you, and have a friendly conversation, have dinner together, and enjoy each other's company. And just, I think, remember the most important thing is that that support system that you're, and come from a place of love, and just to talk and have, an exchange of ideas. And again, I think it's as if you can keep that in mind, that we're not our ideas. We're not the thoughts that go through our head. We're still that same person that loves you, or that you love. And at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's not, you're not anyone different because of your, because you have a differing opinion,
Yeah, and using like what Ray said, with iron sharpens iron. It's almost like sometimes you can actually use a differing opinion to strengthen your own, because it helps you. If you actually respect someone else that disagrees with you, it can help you. Okay, how can I actually formulate my opinion? How can I communicate it in a better way so that I can maybe how can I add some logic or some factual evidence into my opinion to try to convince someone else? If I don't immediately just like disregard you and disrespect you, and I actually try to communicate my message in a better way, that'll actually strengthen my idea and strengthen my opinion.
You know what I find to be the best thing to strengthen your own, here's what I find really strengthens the conversation in general, and will strengthen your opinion along the way, is when you allow yourself to stop focusing on trying to get your opinion across. Because if you know where your inherent values are, like we go back to earlier, you don't have to try and be thinking about the next thing to get your point across, because your values will allow you to move to that point in naturally. So I feel the best way, and I found the best way when I've spoken with people who I'm not necessarily in agreement with, is when I have really great conversations with people, and I often do, who are don't necessarily we agree on the same things. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I make a really strong effort to legitimately listen to what they are saying. I listen to what they are saying, and I try and actually receive their message. And I'll tell you what, more times than one, I have changed my mind after having a conversation with somebody, because I was able to stop for a moment and stop trying to think about how I could best get my message across, and I actually heard what they had to say. And not only did I hear what I had to say, sometimes I was presented with evidence that was empirical, that I didn't know before, something that it was completely I had no idea what about that thing before, and I was like, wow, like this is really interesting. Like, this is super, and then it allowed me to have my mind open. Now, I'll say this on the other side of that coin: if you listen, it allows you to do one very specific thing when you have a conversation with somebody who might not agree with you. If you listen and you still find that your inherent values don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, or if you feel that you have a point against, or that rivals what they may be saying, I find the best way to get that point across, or the best place to even start, is from a point of where you allow them to take you. So it's essentially where you meet them. You meet them where they are. Instead of just refuting everything that they say as incorrect. Say, if you can find in what they're saying the pieces of the things that you do agree with, and then say, look, you know what? Check this out. You're absolutely right about this. Like, so you're saying this.
Yeah.
Finding the common ground where you can meet each other, and then at that point saying, Okay, well, why don't you come down this little path with me so I can show you a couple of these things over here and these things over here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not
Yeah.
calling to that person from the other side of
Yeah.
wherever you guys are, trying to find yourselves and through weaving and wound paths, and you may be saying the same thing. I mean, a lot of times that happens too. People will be like, they think they're disagreeing, but the way they're verbally communicating what they're saying is just like is skewed from each other, and so they're not understanding that really they're just in agreement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which happens a lot too.
They've chosen like opposing sides without realizing there's actually a lot of common ground. And so, as you said, having that mentality of, okay, let me meet the person where they are first,
and that takes
then
listening.
See if I can slowly move them. Yeah, then you can. Sometimes you'll realize, oh yeah, actually we're at the same spot, or we're very close. And it's okay if we disagree a little bit.
And sometimes once you meet them where they are, it allows you to far more easily ask them to follow you down a little part of the path and say, well, cool, like I actually agree with you on a lot of these things. Like we're right here together. Now come over here with me and check these things out that like also I can show you some things and let's just kind of open our eyes on some things together, you know?
Yeah. Let's be open-minded. And I also find, especially with these types of conversations, asking questions is huge too.
Oh, huge, dude.
Don't like telling someone, oh, this is how it is a less effective way than, as you said, guiding them down the path by asking questions and almost leaving breadcrumbs like, hey, what do you think about this?
Exactly.
What's your view? What's your view about this? Like, I'm just wondering. And then it might sway them into a different. I think it allows people to be a little bit open-minded when you are asking questions, and it triggers it tells the person, it signals to the person, hey, I am listening because I asked you a question, so I actually want to know what do you think.
You know what's funny? You know who does that really well? George. I don't know how to pronounce his name. George Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens, the crazy-haired guy from Ancient Aliens. You know who I'm talking about?
All
right, go look him up after we're done. His name's George Tsoukalous or something like that. But he has like the crazy hair, and like he was a real character on Ancient Aliens. He's pretty funny, and he's a I can't remember. He's a scientist of some sort, and he said, and he would always, and was one thing I really liked about him is that he would never draw his own conclusions on this show that is a about ancient alien theory. He would never draw his own conclusions. He would never say, well, it proves this or it has to be this. He would always say, well, what if this? Or what if this? You know what I'm saying? He would always present it as a question and as an open-ended, open possibility thing for you to ponder instead of him telling you. You know what I'm saying? And that's really how you plant a seed in somebody's mind. That's really how you if you feel that you've met them in a certain place and feel that you need to take them somewhere else, or feel that you want to even go down that path, that's the best way. You're right. I feel is a very gentle touch, and I feel that questions at certain points can even be more effective. Can lead to almost a more effective vibe.
100%.
That's really astute, 100%. Kyle. I'm actually like I've actually got a lot out of today's episode. I like this. I'm gonna go back and watch this too when we're done.
Me too, man. Dude, me too, man. Our conversations are they're always on point. They're always kind of just like what I need. They either open my mind to something that I haven't like really looked at, or they solidify something that I maybe was on the fence about, and it was like, okay, yeah, that really helped like anchor that in for me, that I know that to be true about myself or about life or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, dude, I find these conversations to be very enlightening every time. I've had quite a few people text me and message me and say, I really enjoy those episodes you have when Kyle are on, like, so thanks, it's really cool. Sandra actually says right here in the comments, she says, job situations are interesting. There are power dynamics, and to keep my job, I have to not rock the boat. So, that goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier about having to please people in certain situations. You know what I mean? And so if you had any advice for Sandra, what advice would you give to Sandra there?
So that is tough. That is tough.
Well, let me ask you this.
And I think,
What I would say is this: if it's a job if it's a job you're happy with, and you don't, and there's no need to rock the boat, and you enjoy what you're doing, why is there need to rock the boat? Now, if you feel like getting ahead, maybe like by asking for a raise or a promotion or working towards a promotion, maybe rocking the boat. Now, that's a bad thing. I will say that. I'll say if you feel that trying to further yourself in the company may lead to what you might say as rocking the boat and making people uncomfortable, that might not be the company you want to work for. But that's just my opinion. But I mean, what do you think about that, Kyle?
but I mean, that's common. I mean, neither of us can really speak to the experience of what women experience, but just
Sure.
from my friends and people that I've talked to,
Oh no.
and sometimes that women really feel like that they are rocking the boat if they are seeking a promotion or trying to look out for themselves a little bit. And so I actually kind of agree with you that there are certain things where maybe this isn't the right company for me because I, that their value system just really isn't in alignment with my own, while also balancing that with the practicality of certain things. Like sometimes maybe before you speak up, you start applying to another job, or you start setting
Sure.
yourself up in a practical way of what you need to do. That's really a case by case situation. It's tough though. I never like to advise someone
Of
to go
course,
against
right.
their values or to hold in something that they want to say. But at the same time, the practical side of me is like, well, if it's what's putting food on the table, sometimes you do have to do something that is not as beneficial for you. So I think it's a personality thing. I think it's where you are on the scale of how much risk are you willing to take versus being practical and stable. How much are you willing
Right.
to push the envelope a little
And
bit?
I also think that
So-
goes back to like where you are. I mean, if you're comfortable and you're not necessarily wanting to push the envelope anywhere, but but you also feel that you're maybe walking on eggshells every day, like that's a different, that's kind of a dynamic that you definitely don't want. Look, nobody wants to go into work and feel like they're walking on eggshells, or feel like they're gonna do something at any moment. They're gonna be called on some routine action that has that is part of your job, as and you're doing it wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody likes feeling that way, but
and that's why starting to set up, like, now that, okay, I know that's what's true about
Right.
this company. However, I need to put
so if it
food
is
on the
that
table,
way,
so I
Sandra,
need to
keep that in
stay
mind.
here. Start to build that other thing.
Yep.
Start to build a second source of income. Start to apply to other jobs. Start reaching out to my network. Hey, like, do you have any opportunities for me? How can I be of
Yes.
service in this or that way? Start seeking out that other thing, because like, you're only rotting away at that one spot if you're walking on eggshells, or
Exactly.
that job is out of alignment for you. So it can only last for so long until your soul
Yes,
drains.
dude.
And so start working on that
Yeah,
thing.
physically, mentally, and emotionally drained from that thing. So you can only do that for so long, and I would highly suggest not being under that kind of emotional, mental, physical stress. If you are, like I said, it might be a good situation you're at right now. You might just be kind of worried about, what's going to happen if you rock the boat to, further yourself in the company, and that would be, a whole different thing. I would say grab confidence, and do what you can to, to put yourself further. And I, like Kyle said earlier, I know nothing about what it takes, for you to, move forward in your industry, but what I do know is that in any toxic situation, that if there is a feeling of walking on eggshells, or if there is a feeling of like over scrutiny for no apparent reason, I would definitely suggest not being a part of that entity or thing. I find it best, there's always three ways you can deal with any problem. You can either accept the way it is and continue dealing with it. You can either make an attempt to change the problem, okay, or you can leave the problem. You can remove yourself from the situation. And sometimes the problem, you can't change. Sometimes you're not able to change the situation and the thing. So sometimes you have to walk away from it. Sometimes you have to have enough self-respect to say, this isn't for me. I'm gonna go elsewhere. And that being said, I'll end on this. I will say that I think you and I can agree on this, Kyle, that when you know when you have found a positive work environment. You just know. You feel good.
Yeah.
The people you work with are cool. You enjoy being around each other. You have smiles on your faces. You don't wake up in the morning with some like sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach about you have to go to work. You don't have the Sunday night blues. You don't have the Monday morning blues. You don't have these things. Yeah. You wake up. You enjoy your environment. You go out. You work. I mean, shit, I do play music for a living, and sometimes I don't want to go to work, but you know what I mean? But you still get to work and you enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that when we find those environments, we know it. So I think you need to ask yourself if you found that environment, and if you haven't, can you accept the environment you're in? And can you make it that? Because sometimes we can actually change the circumstances slightly within our environment at work to make them better for ourselves. I found that to be a reality at times where I was able to change, not just accept the circumstances that were dealt me, but change them slightly in my favor to where I was able to either do something personally to find a rhythm and a routine within said job that I didn't really like, or I felt like I was walking on eggshells to really pull me out of that feeling, or whatever it may be to change that set of circumstances. But if you can't have that self-respect and do what you need to do, I wouldn't, I'm not advising you to do anything, drastic, but I would say have enough self-respect to be, and have enough self-awareness to know when you're, when it's not a good situation for you. It's just that simple, and, I mean, it's not easy it's not easy being aware enough and to say, I got to change this. It's so hard, dude.
Yeah.
Like changing those things, even if they suck, are so hard to do because people are just afraid of the change itself. They don't know what's going to happen if they do change that thing. So they're like, well, I just leave it the way it is, I guess.
And I think this also goes back to what we were saying too with the patience.
Yeah.
Like these things take time. So if you're trying to change something, maybe be patient with it. Allow it to slowly progress, gauge it to see where you're at. But and then if it's not changing and you're building a side thing, give that time a little bit too. Maybe you can accept the situation for a little bit, switch your mindset a little bit and say, I'm going to deal with this for a few more weeks, a few more months while I build my thing. Having that patience to okay, it doesn't all need to happen right now. That will end up serving you because, okay, now I can build my side thing. Yep. I could actually seek out a new job. I'm not going to immediately quit. You know what I mean? Like being a little patient with it and allowing things to progress will definitely help.
I love it, brother. I love it. Well, thank you so much. With that, Kyle, we're gonna go ahead and end it tonight. All right.
All right, yeah.
You've been amazing tonight.
Really
I really, I appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome. Thanks to everyone in the chat room tonight. And again, going back to that thing, just to kind of put a little bow on top. We all will know when we're in a good position that we enjoy to work in. So I invite you guys to find that position, find that environment that makes you happy when you go up and you get up in the morning and go to work. It's worth it. It's worth it to focus on your happiness.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today in the listening room. I love my man Kyle Romero out in Park City, Utah. I'll see you. You want to jump on with me next week, dude?
Yeah.
If you're available, we'll knock it out. Okay.
Well, yeah, we'll figure out the
Sounds
right
wonderful.
date.
You guys, this Friday night, I'll be having Mike D from Jelly of the Month Club and Zen Robbie as my musical guest. And tomorrow night, join me for Dick Lander, the barber, at 6:30, talking haircuts and good stuff. See you guys tomorrow night in the listening room, 6:30. Thank you all. Love you all. Thanks for being a part of the listening room tonight. My name is Eddie Booze. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notifications, and give the video a like. We'll see you guys every Monday through Friday right here at 6:30. Take care.